What you don't want is for you to run through certain words, which is I tend to do because, again, I'm originally from the East Coast. I'm getting really excited about things. I want to tell you about this new process, new thing that's going to help you to the next level. That sounds amazing when you're doing a keynote, which is what I've done. I've done 4 TED Talks. I'm doing major keynote. I'm used to being animated on stage and connecting with you as a coach. This is the opposite of that. I'm giving you information. I'm serving you. I'm your companion. There's a level of soothing energy that needs to be conveyed with the audiobook. Hi, my name is Damon Brown of DamonBrown.net. My main thing is helping you as a side hustler, a solopreneur, or otherwise a non-traditional entrepreneur. Today we're going to talk about how to make a good audiobook. I've done 26 books. About half of them have audiobooks, maybe a little bit less than that. Most of the audiobooks that I've done, though, have been actually recording in this office or in the other offices I've had at home, where I've done it in my closet with like a microphone and a little, they call it a pee blocker, but something that stops any type of spit or whatever, a nice blue microphone. I highly recommend those, and all those things in my closet. I actually had my sons put up the soundproofing stuff that I got off of one of the major online websites, taped them up, the whole thing. We listened to The Bite-Sized Entrepreneur. We listened to, sorry, my book's over here. The Bite-Sized Entrepreneur. We listened to Bring Your Worth. We listened to my previous book, Build From Now, How to Know Your Power, See Your Abundance, Nourish the World. You're actually listening to me recording something in my closet. In fact, some of the earliest books that I did, and particularly the original Bite-Sized Entrepreneur, which y'all made a bestseller, so I appreciate that, was recorded in my trunk, and in some cases in my back seat of my RAV4 while my baby was actually sleeping, which is crazy. Like my newest book though, Career Remix, this is with Union Square and Company, with a traditional publisher, and actually learned the tricks of the trade. I was at a great place downtown, if I can say downtown Las Vegas called MGB Music. Shout out to Michael over there. And I learned the tricks of the trade that I want to share with you as far as how to get a nice professional audiobook done. Now, the audiobooks that I've done, again, some of them have become bestsellers. They turned out fine, particularly with me doing the DIY, do-it-yourself ethos, one of those two. Maybe I did both. It was the ethics of my ethos. But there are particularly smart ways that the pros know, such as Michael at NGB Music and the people that guided me through my first real professional audiobook that I want to share with y'all. The audiobook is out March 22nd, 2022. You can pick it up at your favorite retailer or go through DamonBrown.net. And this will give you a good insight into the differences you're going to hear and maybe even the sound quality of that compared to the ones I did in my own imprint. So I look forward to giving you those gems, those 3 big gems I want to share with y'all. Again, it's a Bring Your Worth show. I come to you every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 11:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, Las Vegas time. If you're liking the content, if you're trying to get to the next level as an entrepreneur, as a creator, as a side hustler, if you're remixing your career, as is the name of my new book, Career Remix, and you're looking for guidance with that, I'd be honored to help you with that. If you know other people that are on that journey and you want to enroll them in that, or you want to get that support, build a network, and the stuff that I've done is not solo at all. I have my own imprint, I have my own TV show, I have my own coaching practice, all of them through DamonBrown.net. But I've had help all along the way, and I have this wonderful network of people. Share with other people that you want to list on your journey so you can help each other together. Again, I'm with you every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 11:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. When you do an audiobook, the first thing you need to focus on is the health of your throat. Now, I've mentioned it a few times on my videos where I have sinus issues. So a few times a year, including right now, I'll have some drainage and stuff like that. And so it was a really big, long haul to do Career Remix. This is, again, the newest book. This is 65,000 words. Have you tried saying 65,000 words and say them exactly how you wrote them? It is hard. Actually ended up being about a week's full time of work. So it took me about 40 hours, I'm guessing, including some later what they call pickup dates, to go and pick up on things that I might have mispronounced or what have you after they listen to the tape. See, I'm old school, I call it a tape. But 65,000 words. You gotta take care of your voice. And there are 2 big tips with this first tip as far as taking care of your voice. The first thing, which is a recommendation straight from Michael, actually they both are, is to eat potato chips. This sounds really weird. This is actually my upstairs office, and I tell the boys, my kids, that we can't bring food up here, so I'm not gonna bring it up here and show you. But we're talking like Lay's, Ruffles, not Pringles, but the greasy joints. The mythology behind it, and I would call it mythology, but it sounds like there might be some science behind it, is that it helps coat your throat. You think about grease, you think about slippery and so forth. It coats your throat. And what happens is that your vocal cords, to quote the engineers that I worked with, start to get fried. I would talk, I think it was my first day on Monday. I talked for, I think about 3 hours straight. And I'm used to rolling, I'm used to doing my audiobooks on my own. So time is money, so I'm used to going. And about the 2 hour point, maybe 3 hour point, the engineer was like, hey, are you okay? And I was like, yeah, my voice is starting to get a little torn up a little bit. I can't even say it, pronounce it correctly. A little torn up a little bit. And he was like, yeah, your vocal cords are getting a little bit fried. Let's take a break. And then we took a lunch break. I think I brought waters and some tea and so forth. And one of the things that, again, Michael, the engineer, brought was potato chips, Lay's. And so I ate them. I actually felt better. So I love potato chips. It was fine. But also, as he says, it helps coat your throat. On that note, the second thing that I would recommend as far as taking care of your voice, straight from Michael, is to get something called throat coat. And this is not a sponsorship, not a paid sponsorship, not an advertisement. I don't know the people that make it, but it works really well. And it's called Throat Coat, and you can get it at any major online store. I think it's available at some of the grocery stores too. Again, I live in Las Vegas, so we have a lot of the major products. You might be able to get them at like the Asian stores, I would think. But essentially it's filled with herbs and other things that will help coat your throat. That's why it's called Throat Coat. According to Michael and other folks that I've checked out and talked with, this is actually what a lot of the professionals use to coat their throat. So you might have like an Adele or a Beyonce or a Rihanna back when she was making records. Shout out to her. And they might be doing, say, 3 performances a night. And they're hitting the high notes, they're singing. In Rihanna's case and Beyonce's case, they're rapping. It's like that starts to take a toll on your throat. The reason why I bring up these two things is that you want your audiobook, particularly if you're doing independent like I've done, you want your audiobook to be the equivalent of someone having a cup of coffee with you, or in my case, tea. Speaking of my voice, I want it to be the equivalent of us having a coffee, a tea, if you like stronger stuff, of us having a bourbon or gin and tonic, and me breaking down these things that will help you get to the next level of your career, no matter what it may be. You sounding rushed, you sounding stressed, you starting to lose your voice, that's not gonna come off well. And as many people have said in the past, you only get one chance to make it right. So this audiobook, it's not like a YouTube video where if this video is bad, I can take it down, post something else. It's not like a social media post where I can delete it. This is someone actually paying $10, $20, $30 to listen to you. In my case, my Career Remix audiobook, I want to say it's about 10 and a half hours, maybe 10 hours. Let's say 10 hours. So you don't want to hear a tired voice. You don't want to hear me, scratchy, all that. So you want to have the right equipment. Number 2, when you're doing your audiobook, you want to, as I call it, drive slow. Take your time. I'm originally from South Jersey, from Atlantic City. My folks are from right outside of Philly. I use my hands a lot. I move a lot. This is what, the 210th episode of this show. If you've been watching the show for any length, if you've come to my keynotes, whatever, even if you've coached with me over at DamonBrown.net and we know each other personally in that way, my hands are all over the place. But there's no video when it comes to audiobooks. There's no video when it comes to audiobooks. If you have video with your audiobook, then you're doing something different. Because of that, the only thing we have, the only thing the audience has, people you're trying to serve, are their ears. That's it. And so when I'm doing an audiobook, the only thing you're going to hear is me gestating and my blazer going up and down. That's not going to help make the effect of it. Might make me feel better, but it's not going to help the effect. So when you're really animated, like I tend to be an animated person when I'm speaking, it's a total downshift from that. I'm accompanying you when you're going on, as I did last year, you're going on a 10-hour road trip and you put in an audiobook. I'm accompanying you for that road trip. If you're doing an audiobook, you're accompanying someone else for that road trip. They pay $20, $30 for you to be their companion. So they don't need the animated. That doesn't help them. What they need is for you to enunciate every single word, to speak slowly, in some cases softly, so they understand what you're saying. What you don't want is for you to run through certain words, which is I tend to do because, again, I'm originally from the East Coast. I'm getting really excited about things. I want to tell you about this new process, new thing that's going to help you to the next level. That sounds amazing when you're doing a keynote, which is what I've done. I've done 4 TED Talks. I'm doing major keynote. I'm used to being animated on stage and connecting with you as a coach. This is the opposite of that. I'm giving you information. I'm serving you. I'm your companion. There's a level of soothing energy that needs to be conveyed with the audiobook. So my engineer, my director, the wonderful people that I worked with Hachette, as well as with Union Square and Company, Hachette's doing the audiobook, they taught me to slow down. And it's possible to be excited without running over all your words. And so to make sure you catch every word. Remember, a lot of people are going to be driving on their phone and they're going to be out and about. When I got into audiobooks, like when I started listening to audiobooks, it was when my first son was born. And so I'm the primary caregiver of both my sons. My first son was born, my wife went back to work, and I had my hands full literally with like diapers and food and throw up and all those things. So I couldn't sit and read a book. I got into audiobooks, believe it or not, much later in life than a lot of people, because I couldn't have my hands free. I love sitting with a book. When people are listening to your audiobook, they can't just say, oh, I missed that word on page 42, let me go back to it. No, a lot of them are gonna be driving, they're gonna have their hands full, what have you. And so you wanna make sure everything is super clear. You have to slow down. Biggest lesson from my work with Career Remix. And again, shout out to the engineers for giving me so much insight with that. Lastly, number 3, this is a tough one for me. Do not improvise. An audiobook is a representation of the book you wrote. This can apply if you're doing an audiobook to, say, or audio equivalent to like a white paper, or audio equivalent to like an article, which is becoming really popular nowadays. I love to see that phenomenon, particularly for people that are dealing with visual disabilities and so forth, where you'll see that at the top of certain mainstream articles, and even some non-mainstream articles where you can click on it and someone will be reading the article to you. It's unabridged. Abridged means abbreviated, changed a little bit. This is unabridged. Most of the audiobook and works that you're going to be doing, if you're a creator, are going to be unabridged. Your audience is going to want it unabridged. If they can't see, or if they're not able to read at the moment, then you not doing it exactly how you're representing in the book is actually a penalty to them, because they're not getting the same experience that people that can read or can see get. This was tough for me, because when I, again, do keynotes, especially when I'm coaching, even with this show, I have a certain structure, and then I work within that structure. And I'm sometimes outside of the lines, sometimes inside of the lines. But I have the structure to make sure that I'm delivering what you need, ideally. Hopefully, you give me some feedback in the comments below. But when it comes to a book, which is what I learned in the Career Remix audiobook process, it has to be representative of the book, word by word. There are so many times where we would pause in the middle of me going through a nice paragraph, and they'd say, hey, you actually said this instead of that. And I didn't even catch myself doing it, because it's not part of my skill set. My skill set is getting on stage with 100, a couple hundred, however many people, and having a dynamic presentation. My skill set is connecting with you one-on-one as a coach. My skill set is speaking at the TED conference and speaking to a lot of y'all virtually about this big idea within 15 minutes. And that has space for improvisation. This, your audiobook, your white paper, whatever you might be recording, does not have room for that, because you want your entire audience to have the same exact experience. So it's such an important thing. So I hope this was helpful as far as how you can get to the next level with your audiobook. I know a lot of y'all are similar to where I was a few years ago, where you're starting your own book imprint, you're writing something, you want to have an audio equivalent of it, maybe even doing a podcast based on an article that you wrote. I know a lot of you are doing that. I think it's such awesome work. But it's also important to make sure you have the tools and the skills that the folks in the big league have. And again, Career Remix is about my 6th or 7th audiobook. This was the first time of me going into a studio, having a session, going downtown, getting official with it, having a proper mic, all those good things. And there's so many insights that I want to share with you so that you can apply that even if you're doing the DIY aesthetic as I have been traditionally. It's Bring Your Worst show every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 11:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, Vegas time. Again, I think I just hit the 200th episode. I think we're at 210. I'm just going here. Thank you so much for the support over the last couple of years. I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. And remember, Career Remix, the audiobook, will be out March 22nd. Get it wherever audiobooks are sold. And if you want digital copies or physical copies, you can go to those bookstores as well or come through damonbrown.net. Until next time, remember that you can always bring your worth, that you can always build from now. Take places from Chicago to New Orleans to San Francisco. But those metrics reflected my values until they didn't. Then those metrics changed, and I'm happily settled in Las Vegas, helping lead my family and eagerly getting on the road with them post-pandemic. The separation, the cognitive dissonance, as coaches like to say, is that many of us didn't realize that our system didn't reflect our values. It is because our metrics for success were likely given to us by an outside entity, like the culture we are raised in, the expectations of our first job many, many years ago, or our monetary needs of the moment, even if that moment has passed a while back. But we often don't slow down enough to realize that our values have changed. It often takes a sudden shock, like, a global pandemic, for us to pump the brakes and realize that where we are at, and more concerningly, where we are headed, isn't where we're intended at all.